Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sarah and Adam Show. I'm here as the guest of with my friend Sarah, who's the host. I don't know.
Isn't it kind of weird to say that you're a guest if you're in the show title, show name, headliner?
I'll be honest. It feels the reason I said that at all, and I know it sounded really awkward, and because it was awkward, but it sounds awkward because it is awkward. But the reason I said it that way was it just struck me as strange that we're announcing it as the Sarah and Adam show, which seems like it's like the thing you own, and then and Adam is just tacked on, which is fine. If that's how people perceive it or whatever. But why the hell am I the one announcing it at the start?
Because I made you do it.
Best answer. All right.
uh, yeah.
Sounds true. All right. So we did watch the first episode of The Last of Us, which is like a full-length movie. It's like an hour and a half episode.
Yeah.
We're doing Bad Batch season 2, episode 4. And we've got some news about other shows and stuff and things, I think, right?
Yeah, like minimal news.
Minimal news. Okay, what kind of minimal news do you have for us?
Um, well, we were just discussing Willow season 2. It's not officially confirmed, but apparently it looks promising.
Yeah.
So
Ron Howard wants to direct an episode of it.
I'm sure that will. I don't know. Do you think that will have like a little bit of sway?
So if it's captured his imagination
Mm-hmm.
to the point that he would like to, I mean, I think like I don't know what his place in the Lucasfilm organization is, but I know he's close friends with like Kathleen Kennedy, and I'm like he's like their trust guy, right? Like when Solo was going weird with the directors that forget what their names are now. The guys who directed the Lego movie.
Oh gosh.
Uh, so those two guys were directing Solo. Apparently, it was just not going the direction it was supposed to go, and so they fired those two. And the person they sent in to fix and right the ship kind of was Ron Howard.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like he's their trust guy. He's the guy, and so you got to think that his word has a lot of weight.
Okay. Fair. I didn't realize that he was that like trusted, I guess.
Yeah, well, because he was involved in the other movies, and he's close to the brand. I think he cares about Star Wars and its success and stuff. I think he's good friends with George Lucas or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, honestly. Like about it, like I don't know any of them, obviously. So you know, but yeah, like he's you can see like his impact and influence over these things is you can't really deny it after you see the amount of things that he's been in and the his involvement in various projects. So the fact that he'd like to direct one, it seems like that's a pretty good vote of confidence
Mm-hmm.
in the show.
Perfect. Then I guess maybe we will get a season 2.
I feel like if we get a season 2, like it comes with an implied season 3.
Yeah, I actually would be curious if we end up getting 2 and 3 renewed at the same time.
That would be interesting. Yeah, I mean, because usually what happens, like the way trilogies are, like the traditional setup of trilogies is like the first one is a self-contained, like it's an intro to the heroes.
Mm-hmm.
You see what they're, who they are, kind of like that. Some of them, grow to become heroes or whatever, but then they win. It's victorious, hooray! And then season 2 is where the bad guys basically win and they beat up the good guys, and then the season 3 is where the good guys come back against all odds and win.
Right.
Which, I mean, you could look no farther than Star Wars, the original trilogy. That's exactly what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Almost
So
every trilogy follows an arc similar to that, if not that exact one.
Right, like Willow did that exact thing, and it's like, well, yeah, I mean, but just like Star Wars, like there's still the Empire around.
Hmm.
They saved Vader or whatever, so you know, there was still a very obvious enemy, just like Willow. It's like, well, you just killed some random old woman and Cage Face,
Cage face.
so otherwise, Mando's coming soon as well.
Yeah, March 1st.
Woo! Man, I am so pumped. The new trailer is awesome.
It looked really good.
Like, holy cow! I'm actually really excited. I want to see, and I know that not everyone who listens to this plays our game, so I'll try to be brief. But I just have to think. And lately, I've been playing like in our Galaxy of Heroes game. I've been playing with Mandalorians more and more
Hmm.
lately, because I'm trying to make a video about them. And they're a really fun faction, but there's a ton of characters that are going unused. I really hope we get a few more Mando characters to make more of that faction.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It wouldn't surprise me if we did, especially with the season coming.
Yeah, I hope so. But I mean, that many people in Mandalorian armor and stuff, it's just exciting.
It looked so good, and like I feel like it had the right amount of uh teasing for the season. Like you see him with Baby Yoda flying in their ship. You see all the Mandalorians, like you're saying. Grief shows up. The armor is there. Like you're just seeing all these little snippets of everything that you want. Um, so I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, there's even and this hasn't been confirmed or anything, but there's a in the trailer, there's just like this really brief snapshot of someone who's wearing something very reminiscent, at least to what Sabine would look like.
Right.
It's kind of blurred in the background, but it's like what like the picture I saw was, holding it showed like what she looks like, in the right pose and like the right colors, and then it like compared right next to it,
Okay, right.
what the actual picture was, and I was like, oh, that could easily be her. Like that, just looking at that would make it surprising that it wasn't her
Hmm.
actually.
When you see it side by side like that.
Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
and I think that it's the perfect opportunity, honestly, just to like don't let her come in and steal the show or anything, but let her come in, do some badass Mandalorian stuff,
Hmm.
and get people hyped for the next show, for the Ahsoka show.
Yeah. Which I mean, that would be really genius. I think that would be a really really smart move on their part to do that.
Right. I've been saying for a while, like it just makes so much sense to put her into the Mando
Mhm.
or show, at least a little bit.
Yeah. So, but it's exciting. So I guess that's like I don't know 5.5 weeks away. Not even.
Yeah, that's exciting.
So
It's like, yeah, you'll potentially, depending on when you pop, you might be able to just watch. You might be able to just watch all of. Sorry, I know some people don't love
uh,
that term.
but I might be able to watch a few episodes.
Well, I mean, if he decides to show up a little early, maybe he'll get to watch all of season 3 with you. Who knows? Like it's
True.
that close though. It's like it's close.
I know. It's like yeah, yeah, one on top of the other basically. Uh, it's okay. It'll be fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm sure it'll be fine. Actually, I'm sure. I actually am pretty sure it will be fine. So I'm excited for Bad Batch, or for Bad Batch. I am kind of excited for Bad Batch, though this season was, or this episode is whatever. But I'm excited to talk about Mando, though. Mando's gonna have a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, it is. Um, okay, so should we talk about Bad Batch first? What do you want to talk about first?
Should we just knock out Bad Batch real quick
Yeah,
first?
sure. Let's do it.
Yeah. So we're back to the light side characters. Um,
Right.
and
A
but
few
we
of
only get
them.
a few of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Omega, Wrecker, and Tech.
Yeah, and Sketchy Sid.
Sketchy. Yeah, I don't even know if I would like He's not light side. I guess.
Totally a she.
Or sorry, she's not light side.
She's pretty sketchy. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what I'd call her. Like if I had to choose for Galaxy of Heroes,
Yeah.
I don't know. She's probably a little more dark, but
She seems
I mean,
sus.
what's that?
She seems sus.
She is sus.
Like,
Yep.
but yeah,
Like the engine. Yeah.
yeah, it's just them though.
I know. Like, okay, let's take Hunter and Echo out of it too.
Which, yeah, it's kind of weird. I will say, I did enjoy like the opening of this episode with Omega and Wrecker playing on the holo table, and Wrecker just gives. This was such a good little snippet because he gives off this goofy, like, fun uncle vibe, and it just really came through in that moment, I thought.
Yeah, well, it's fun. I mean, so the Mantel mix is kind of a fun thing to talk about, and I don't know. I just one of the things that I've always liked about Bad Batch, like they're hanging out on Ord Mantell, and that's it has its roots in episode 5.
Right.
Like the Han Solo has to leave the rebellion at the start. He's like, well, the bounty hunter we ran into on Ord Mantell changed my mind.
Right.
That's all they say. Like we don't know anything else about Ord Mantell, but I've just always really liked that they just they take something that is pretty obscure but still like very entrenched in the canon,
Right.
and they're just kind of fleshing it out. And it's a place that they could run into a bounty hunter. Like that wouldn't be surprising. It's kind of a sketchy place.
Right. Totally. And like they've got people doing jobs and all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, they have Hunter and Echo delivering Nerf nuggets.
Yeah, which is apparently a mission or whatever Omega calls
yeah,
it.
yeah. She's like, I wouldn't call that a mission or something. Yeah.
But overall, like this episode did. I actually watched this one twice.
Okay.
And it did feel more like a filler episode.
A little bit. I like that they kind of advanced Sid's character a little bit.
Yeah.
They've been with her long enough. Like we kind of need to know more about what her thing is, because she does kind of just seem like, I don't know, she's kind of like just on the edge of ruin sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
She doesn't make the best decisions, seems like.
Well, and I think it's Tech that even points that out, right? Like he says something along the lines of how like this is a pattern with her or whatever. Like they.
No. I literally said it out loud. I was like, "Thank you." When we saw that, when Tech said that, I was like, "They finally noticed."
Mm-hmm.
Like she just seems, she makes some good. She seems tough. She acts tough, and that kind of hides it a little bit. But yeah, she's. Every once in a while, they have to bail her out. Like she's, some of the Pikes try to steal her stuff. Like she's just powerless.
Right.
This guy takes, tries to, have a side bet with her, and it's like gonna ruin her, and she still makes it for some reason.
Man.
I don't know. So, yeah. So you realize it took me a while to realize this. That she's a Trandoshan, like she's the same species as Bosk.
Bosk. Okay.
Yeah, she's just a female version, and and the animation is kind of weird, so it's not so super apparent.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't like immediately realize it, but now that you say it, you can see it, and if you picture Bosk animated the same way, it kind of makes sense, right?
I think so. So what did you think of the pilot that she acquired, the droid?
He was like, he kind of gave me C-3PO and K2SO vibes, like mashed together. Like he sort of had like the bluntness of K2SO, but the like protocol droid annoyingness of C-3PO.
The prissiness.
Yeah. But then he also had this ego that I was like, where is this ego coming from?
I liked the ego. I like.
I liked it. He was making me laugh.
Well, I liked it because I don't know. Maybe it's just because he was a slave. He's a droid. He's like non-threatening to me. But like when there's someone who's like super arrogant and like doesn't have any notion of how arrogant they're acting, like they're just so obnoxious. Like I know I can be like that sometimes for sure. I have that. I have elements of arrogance or at least ego, right? And
Right.
so and I really do, believe it or not, I really do try to keep that a little bit tamped down. But I think this part of the reason I can recognize it, like I see other people who are like that, and it drives me so crazy. And I think it's just like game recognizes game a little bit.
Right.
So if I saw it on a human, I'd be like, I hate him so much. I don't want to. I don't want to watch him. Probably because I see a little of that mirror in myself, and but because it's a droid, it's like somehow it's just like non-threatening to me, and I'm like, haha, he's funny.
I was
kind of liked him.
I was I noticed it a lot, and this, I don't know if this sounds weird or not, but he kept ending his sentences or his whatever he was saying with his name, but like saying Teo. And for whatever reason, that just came across more like egotistical to me.
Sure.
Which, I mean, was fine. I'm sure that was the whole point.
It really resonated with Adam.
Yeah. I'm sure it did. But yeah, I really enjoyed also his line when he was laying on the table. And he's like, hey, like, maybe a little less chatter over there. And a little bit more, whatever it was he said, spanner, whatever, working on him, basically. Just calling them out for chit-chatting.
Well, yeah, like less chatter, more spanner.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Well, it's funny, like there's that scene in episode 5 as well. Star Wars, just Empire Strikes Back, where Han Solo says, Hydro Spanner, get me the Hydro Spanner. And that's literally, and now it's just like this whole thing. It's fun.
Yeah, so
like now they just call it a spanner. Like it's just this common word in the vernacular.
Just some slang.
Yeah, I loved how cocky he was, but then I also liked the subservience of a droid that he had. He's like, because like he could be told what to do by Sid,
right?
And so he's like, yeah, of course, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Yeah, for sure, I'll do that. Of course, I will do that.
Right.
Like it's my idea, but I'll do. Like he's. The mix of that was especially fun. Like she tells him what to do, and he's like, "Yes, of course I'll do that." Like but he always obeys, at least his master. So
yeah. No, I thought he was a good ad. I mean, he gave this episode a little bit more spice. I think it would have been real dull without him.
Yeah, it needed a little more juice for sure. Yeah, well, because it was just like. I mean, I called it right away when Tech was like commenting on it. I'm like, oh, something's gonna happen, and Tech is going to be the guy who pilots it.
Right.
Like, and then sure enough, Tech is, and my kids are both like, "Daddy, you called it." They're like annoyed.
Way to ruin it.
Well, you know what? Actually, sometimes I'll just like pause it and I'll be like, "What do you guys think is going to happen in this episode?" Based off of and then I'll get, they give me their predictions, and we just have a fun game of predicting. And so I think they were annoyed that they didn't get it.
That they didn't get it right. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that's right, boys. Learn your place. No, they do a really good job of predicting too. This time not so much, but sometimes I'm just like, that was really insightful. That's actually how the episode should have gone.
Yeah.
That would have been a better episode, boys.
Oh man. So you called it.
Yeah, so I called it, and then it happened exactly like I was like, okay. Especially like the minute I knew for sure I was right was when Tech was like, I think your strategy's wrong. You should do such and such. And I was like,
Mm,
okay, for sure Tech is gonna do it now.
right. As soon as he started chiming in.
I became extremely confident at that point,
Yeah.
at the end. Well, because at first he was like, I cannot figure, like he just trying. He made all these comments of like he couldn't figure it out,
Mm-hmm.
and I took it as he's as an intellectual. He's like, all right, challenge accepted. I am gonna solve this.
It's a puzzle, and now he's gonna fixate on it.
Right. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I, not that I'm like nearly as intelligent as he is, but I have similar reactions too. Like I like the puzzle aspect of things. I'm always like, if it's interesting to me and I don't get it, then awesome. Like now I have a ton of stuff to think about and explore and figure out.
Right. And try to finagle it or whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Um. Yeah. So this was kind of just a brief little fillery type, and they
Yeah.
seem to bail Sid out of her problem.
Like, and pretty foolishly, actually. Like, why did they go through Omega to do it? Why did they let Omega do that? Like, she's a
Right.
child.
Right.
It doesn't matter how smart she is or how, like talented or she's technically older than them, whatever. Like, she's still developmentally a child.
I think the answer is because Hunter and Echo weren't there.
Right. Well, you're right. And like Wrecker doesn't have the moral authority to
Mm-hmm.
do that. To like you said earlier, he's like a goofy uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what they are. Like he can't really tell her no,
Right.
really. Like he's like, hey, like be safe or whatever. But mostly he's just there to hang out with her.
Right.
Which is great. She needs that kind of influence as long as her other father figures. But then Tech is not a leader either. Like he's just
He is
he's
like, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say he seems like the type who, like, maybe would recognize that it's a bad idea because she's a kid or whatever, but also sees that it's a good idea because logically it would work and lead to the solution. So that's the choice you should go with. Like, you know what I mean? Like he seems like that kind of person.
Yeah, like okay, so let's talk about the Bad Batch as a whole. Like um
Excuse me.
like if another Bad Batch character were to just leave the Bad Batch, like die or
Oh.
like go decide to do something else, like which one would be the most disastery for them? Like which one could they least afford to lose? Like
Oh.
who's the most expendable and who's the least expendable? Because Crosshair was actually one of the most important ones because he provided that like long range firepower to be able to neutralize things,
Yeah.
outside threats. And I always thought that was an interesting component of like now they have to deal without him. Like they managed fine because they're kids. It's an animated show,
Mm-hmm.
but I always thought that he added such a really interesting component. He was gone. But who do you think, like, who's the most expendable in the squad, in the group,
Oh.
and the least expendable?
Oh, it feels so weird because I feel like you're at a point where you kind of need all of them.
Well, I mean, sure, like the whole group is going to be severely damaged if one of them just
Yeah.
leaves somehow. Okay,
Like
so I'm asking,
I want to say Wrecker, maybe?
well, beyond like Omega, who is
Yeah.
like,
Like out
she
of,
comes up with some good things, but
out of Hunter, Echo, Tech, and Wrecker is what you mean. I assume.
yeah, like Wrecker just provides brute force. Like they could theoretically just find another person to replace him in a
Right.
way, just to go find another brute. Um, yeah, like Hunter provides good leadership, good tactical knowledge, all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. All the everything. Yeah, in my opinion, I think the Bad Batch is overpowered because of Tech.
Yeah.
I think that he solves everything. That unless someone else random solves it, they're like, "Hey, I solved one before Tech." It's like, Yeah, because they need to have tech not solve everything.
Right. Yeah, because if you take that aspect away, you're really just going through like leadership skills and, you know, like combat skills, so to speak.
Right. Well, and in the first episode, Tech just went and you know, he took out a bunch of people anyways
Right.
on his own. Like he's really good at fighting as well. Like he's just good at everything.
Mm-hmm.
He's the true power behind the squad.
Mm-hmm. I could see that.
He even has the reflexes. Like never mind that he has good like he figures out the tactics of the thing, like he solves it, but you still have to have good reflexes to be able to fly a speeder at that
Right.
rate of speed and stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't want to get rid of any of them though.
I agree. I don't want that either.
uh no,
I'm so curious what's going to happen to them, frankly. Like, because they're not around with during the rebellion, but they won't have aged so much that they wouldn't be part of it either.
right. Oh man, that's kind of sad to think of.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
So here's my well, that's not really a theory. Like, here's what I want to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you read the Thrawn book, right?
Yeah.
And so he comes from like the Chiss ascendancy. It's like an empire about out in the unknown regions,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And there's like this whole part in the galaxy that like no one knows about. It's totally uncharted. And I mean, and there's also corners of the galaxy, like where did the First Order come from? Like they came from
Right.
another corner of the galaxy that nobody knew about except for like the Emperor, who kind of like created like way stops for them to get there and figure out, rebuild sort of.
Mm-hmm.
I want a lot of these characters to like find an outside threat, like I don't know if you're familiar with the Yuzon Vong or something from the Star Wars, from the old Legends lore.
No.
So to put it as succinctly as I can, it's that they're like a race of people who come from a different galaxy,
Okay.
and they're completely organic. They don't have like all their weapons, like everything, that they can't do anything with electronics, really, but they also can't be affected by the Force at all. And so like they come and invade the galaxy, kill a bunch of main characters, like it's just this whole mess. Like the first book that they're in, they kill Chewbacca.
Oh.
And it's not canon or anything, but like that's kind of like sets the stage for every. And so they were actually going to be in the next Clone Wars season. Actually, they were written in, and then before it got canceled.
Mm-hmm.
But like real close to being being made permanently canon. And what I want is all of these characters who like apparently lived throughout, like they didn't take part in the rebellion, which are like, well, they should have been part of it because
Mm-hmm.
they're heroic and they're against the Empire. What if these guys all found like some outside threat, like the Yuzon Vong, and they went and like joined forces with Thrawn to go like fight them in a battle that no one in the rebellion or Empire even knew about,
Okay.
like in the unknown regions?
So then they just take off somewhere else.
Like give them a way to be heroic without actually needing to be part of the conflict that we've been paying attention to.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
They don't have to do it exactly. I want a good explanation that keeps my characters alive. Like, it doesn't have to be that. I just like, why aren't Bad Batch there?
Mhm.
Like, did they just retire? They can retire if they want, but it seems like that's not what their goal is. Like, they're kind of moving toward, no, we actually have to do something about the Empire.
Right. Yeah. Ugh. I would be okay with that if they wrote them like setting off somewhere else.
And it'd be cool to explore a different corner of the galaxy where there are other empires and other groups of people.
Totally.
Maybe they'll find Pandora and they can just merge with the Avatar franchise. Kidding, but that's what Thrawn actually is. He's
oh boy.
He's Na'vi. Yeah. All right, I'm just getting silly. So let's move to the next.
To the next one, to The Last of Us.
So hold on, real quick. Prediction:
Okay.
Will Sid deal straight with Bad Batch? But like at some point, they're going to find a way to show like we're gonna suspect her of having
Right.
less than their best interests at heart. Is she gonna deal straight with them? And she gonna actually prove to be have a heart of gold or not?
Mm, I don't expect her to.
You think she's shady and in all the wrong ways, and she's going to betray them if she can make enough money or something.
I don't think she'll go out of her way to betray them, but I think if it comes down to them or herself, she's always going to pick herself.
Okay. I think that she thinks she's going to betray them
Mm-hmm.
or that she would, but eventually she decides not to, and she's going to surprise herself a little bit.
And have some redemption, so to speak, or growth.
I, that's the optimist in me, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I like it. I guess we'll
Just
find
what I
out.
think. We'll find out. I mean, she just hasn't done that much to make me think she's going to look out for him. She's
Yeah.
pretty
Self-serving.
centered,
Mm-hmm.
self-serving. Absolutely. So I wouldn't be surprised either way, but that's what I think. I think she's going to turn out to have more heart than she thought.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that would be ideal. I just can't see it happening yet.
Well, you have become cynical, and that's not great.
It's fine. Um. Oh.
It's not, but let's move on.
So, shall we talk about The Last of Us then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a video game apparently as
Yeah.
well.
So, okay. So before we even start, did you do any like reading about the video game or anything like that? Like, do you have any knowledge other than what you watched in this episode?
No, our friend Aldo
Mm-hmm.
was talking about how it's a really, really good, like, well, he's excited about it because of the video game. He loved the
Yeah.
video game. So one thing I did do is look at the reviews on the video game and
Mm-hmm.
just see what, like it won a bunch of awards, and
Mm-hmm.
not that you can actually really say anything definitively like this, but like there were a lot of buzzwords like best video game ever made kind
Right.
of things, like accolades that big places and big reviewers and whatever would not say about some middling game, like something that you could actually stand on and defend.
Right.
And so and honestly, just the fact that HBO is making their own adaptation of it
Mm-hmm.
is almost vote enough that I was like, yeah, I bet it was a really successful video game if they're doing an adaptation.
Mm-hmm. It was a very, very good video game. Um. Okay.
Yeah. So you did you play the video game to its completion?
Yeah.
Because you were saying that you played. Okay, so
I
first
didn't
off,
play. I didn't play the second one because there's a sequel.
okay.
And I didn't play that one. I only ever played the first. But it was very good.
All right, so was there multiple difficulty levels?
I honestly do not remember because I played it almost 10 years ago.
So one of my favorite things, and I didn't even play it, so this is silly that I'm saying I like it,
Mhm.
but so Jedi Fallen Order actually has a movie version, kind of like where you can play it and like you
Mhm.
just basically can't die, and you're just like playing the game
Right.
for the experience of it, not for the challenge.
Mhm.
And whereas I used to play all the Halo games, I used to try to play them co-op and do the hardest, like legendary difficulty and stuff. Like we
Mhm.
got through the first 3 Halo games like that. So I've always liked that back in the day. I don't have nearly the time where you just die and die and die and you have to come up with all these crazy strategies. Um, but was it a tough game?
It like you could die in it. Yeah, like you could 100%. You had to come up with
Did
the strategies to get through it.
did they have a mode where it was just like movie mode, or is that just like pretty new? I don't know.
Um
I don't play modern video games. I'm kind of lost. It's
I
been
honestly
a long
don't
time.
I don't know if they did. I don't think they did though.
Okay. Um, So it was the game story driven, or was it like action? Like you're trying, I mean, I guess there has to be some action, but like, was there
Mhm.
a significant amount of story as well? I guess.
Yeah, so the game, you start off in the game as Sarah. So you're playing as Joel's daughter. Um
Oh, okay.
and it's kind of like a mini tutorial when you start it, and the so you're starting kind of like how this episode starts, right? She's like, they're
Hmm.
going through their day before this outbreak kind of happens.
Yeah.
um and it's the same idea, like she's going through her day, she's getting the watch for Joel, like it's the same. There are a lot of things that happen in this episode that also happen in the video game, that they did a really good job of like tying over,
Mm.
um or crossing over, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, you do start with her and you're playing as her, and then you switch to Joel. um I believe it's just before she is killed. So whenever he's running through that field,
Mm.
backyard, whatever, with her, and the soldier shows up, um,
Man,
that's when you switch to Joel.
hate it.
Sometime around there, or but yeah, so it is very story driven. So you have this whole thing kind of setting you up, and then she dies, and you're thrown in, and you start playing as Joel. And it was like, looking when you look back at it, you realize if you played the game, and I didn't realize it at the time because I didn't know who I would play as when I started playing it. But a lot of
Hmm.
people who did start playing it knew that they were going to be playing as Joel. So when you started playing the tutorial as his daughter, you immediately kind of got this like red flag going up,
Yeah.
to be like, why am I playing as his daughter, sort of thing. So, uh, yeah,
Okay.
definitely story driven, but then there is a lot of action because the whole game
It's a
is
video game.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's exactly how this episode ends, where Joel needs to take Ellie wherever he's taking her, um, and you're doing the exact same thing in the video game.
Cool. So, did it feel like it did the video game justice, at least in the first episode?
Yeah, I thought it did. There actually was that moment in this episode where, when they're driving through the town with Tommy,
It felt like a video
it
game.
felt
The
like a video
perspective
game.
perspective was very video game-ish because you like couldn't see it. Like they just show you see the window of what you could
Yeah.
normally see, and it's like, what's going on? I want to see, but they won't let you.
I
Yeah.
was like, this is it literally felt like a video game. It was really well done.
Hmm.
And a lot of those scenes are almost shot for shot out of the video game. Um, like when they're driving around, when they are leaving their house, and they kind of go up, and they see the police cruisers going by, and you see that when they are deciding to go on Highway 70 or whatever it was called, that's almost shot for shot out of the game. The house burning, like all that kind of stuff is in the
Mm.
game as well.
Oh, that's cool. Like I love so it's got a huge fandom, of course, and a lot
Hmm.
of people are excited about it. And I bet that that really adds a certain extra element of like, oh, they're showing all the cool stuff.
Yeah. So I thought they did a really good job, and like I'm really excited to see what they do. They are uh so there is one thing that they are changing. I don't know if you want me to tell you or not.
Yeah, I would love some perspective on it because I want to know, for instance, I want to know if the game was actually supposed to happen in 2023 or if they just chose that to be like a more uh I don't know, relevant year to us, like, oh, hey, this could be us kind of.
No, the game is happening, if I remember correctly, in 2033, because I think the actual like
Mhm.
outbreak starts in 2013 in the game.
Okay, so they just rewound for 10 years for some reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Well,
the showrunner said the reason he did that was because he really likes when he's watching these types of shows and movies where they're meant to be like chaotic and outbreaky or anything like that. he connects more with it when it's the current time versus being in the future.
That's fine. I
Which
mean, if it's gonna inspire him a little bit more, I mean, I don't know what that does for the fandom if they get pissed off, like the rabid fans who are like,
right.
10 years, that's a lot. Nah, nah, nah. Like, I don't know. But like, I don't know. I'm not tied to any sentiment to it. I like, as long as it's a good story.
Yeah.
For me, I don't have any fandom ties to it. I don't have that sentiment. That
Which is fair. Um
in a way, it's really helpful. I feel like
yeah.
some of these shows, you're like, wow, I don't have to feel real angry about something.
And honestly, like I didn't even really notice that they changed the time until I was reading an interview, and that's where I read that, and I was like, oh, I guess you guys did change the timeline, so to
Okay.
speak. I mean, it's the same time jump. It's still 20 years later as well in the game. They're just changing the starting point.
Sure.
So,
Okay, so you said you were gonna tell me what they changed. I'm guessing it
yes.
wasn't the year.
No. I mean, so they did change that. So in the game, this virus is spread through the air. So
It's airborne.
it's
Okay.
airborne. You just breathe it in. So when you are going anywhere, you can actually see it in the game. You can see like the spores in the air. So you're wearing a gas mask a lot of the time while you
Oh,
play.
that's like a mechanic element to
Yeah.
it. Okay.
You have to actually like put it on in the game, like get your character to put it on.
Okay.
So they chose not to do that for the show because they didn't logistically want the actors to be wearing gas masks a lot of the time. So
Yeah, it's a
instead,
thing that I've always thought was. I liked seeing Pedro Pascal's face. He's a very expressive actor for being
yeah,
how stoic he is. He does such a good job of like he's so good. I didn't realize he was this good actually. But like that's always been a thing I'd like in Mandalorian.
hmm
Who's even in there? Who cares? Like I could be in there, kind
right.
of, you know? Like I just like making goofy faces, like, you know?
And no one would know.
Yeah, like it doesn't even have to be Pedro Pascal in there
hmm
for a lot of it. In fact, I think I've read a few things where he isn't always the actor there.
Yeah, I've
Like,
read that too, actually. So, um, yeah, so
so I respect their choice not to put gas masks on.
yeah, I don't think it's that big of a deal, to be honest. So that they have it going through this fungus, instead, um,
Mm.
which I mean, to me, I'm like, it kind of sort of makes more sense for it not to be airborne, in my opinion, because if it were airborne, like it wouldn't really matter if you had your gas mask off in a clean area or not. Eventually, that clean area is not going to be clean, and you're gonna get it. Like,
Oh yeah, it
you know?
depends on who can transmit it and stuff. But yeah, like it's well, plus I think that, and I don't know what the aesthetic is going to be for everything, but
Mhm.
I mean, just the stuff that they showed us, like the fungus stuff is real gross, but very interesting.
Yes, and to me, it actually makes sense because so I'm assuming they're gonna follow this, which was also in the video game, um, and it looks like they probably will. So, and I'm curious if you noticed this or not. Um, the infected are not dead. So you have your like typical zombie genre where
They
they
die,
die and
but
they turn into zombies and then
and then there's just a certain core of their brain that's kind of turned on. That's like the animalistic
right,
side of things, but
right,
it's not. But that they're not redeemable. Like you can't.
yeah,
They're not alive in any functional way. Like, oh well, they look like my old wife, but my old wife is dead now. She's just walking around
R-
because the synapses in her brain are firing.
right, exactly. Whereas in the game they were infected, and it's basically just how infected you are is dictates like how you act and how bad you act. So I don't know if you saw the trailer for episode 2, but they do show a preview of like they're called the clickers. Um and that's like when the infection is really far gone. You progress into a clicker essentially.
Okay, I'm excited to see it. I mean, we saw a few pictures of the zombies and stuff. Like, I
Yeah.
think, I don't know. Like, we've discovered that you and I have different like versions of the show that we watch. Not the show itself, but like the after show. Like, they showed us. It's like a preview of the other episodes in the coming weeks, kind of thing. Like, it's not necessarily just for episode 2. At least that's what the one I saw.
Right.
It's just.
Whereas
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know if it is the coming weeks, but they titled it episode 2, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, mine was definitely not titled as episode 2. So
yeah,
maybe I saw a clicker, maybe not. But okay, so I heard you guys mentioning clickers. And I'll look forward to seeing what that is. Okay, so show wise.
Yes, show wise.
First off, I want to say I'm glad there wasn't any jumpy parts. Like, there were parts that I thought there were going to be jumpy parts. Like, it made me feel like I was gonna like, but there wasn't any. It was creepy, certainly. And there were parts that they could have inserted a jump node, like where I'm just like, they could have made me jump, but they didn't, and I appreciated that because I don't want to. I hate it.
Yeah,
I hate that. Well, some people like it. I hate it, man.
I hate it. And I actually was watching, we were probably at the same scene when Sarah was going through the neighbor's house. And I was like, okay, it's going to happen. And I was like prepared. I'm like, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. And then they didn't. And I was like, oh. Yeah,
like it was still super creepy, but they didn't make me jump. I was... So, maybe that's... I hope that's a decision that they make. They can have creepy but not jumpy. Like, Walking Dead very rarely had jump scares, and I appreciated that. Like, I would have stopped watching it way before, because that's an element of like horror movies. I don't like horror movies, and I think that's at the very core of it. I don't like the startle thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, me
too. I can deal with disturbing a little more, at least. But jumps, I'm just like, you're just tricking me. Like, that's all it is. It's just like, you know, like my 4-year-old tries to do that to me. Like, it's annoying. Stop.
Yeah, no, I was very happy that they didn't do it. And like also kind of pleasantly surprised, because I figured they would.
It seemed like it. I liked how this show was divided. The first one was divided into 2 segments. Like, the first one was like a pretty classic zombie apocalypse, you know, like everyone's at school, and then they're like, you will be tested on this, and it's like, will school even happen tomorrow?
Right.
But everyone's at school, and then suddenly just pandemonium breaks out.
Yeah, it's just your classic get the hell out of Dodge ASAP and see what happens.
Okay, be honest. When they said Jakarta, and he was like, they were like wondering what Jakarta was. Did you know what Jakarta was, where it was?
It's in the Middle East, isn't it?
Well, they answered it.
I didn't know.
Oh, so it's the capital of Indonesia, and I thought it was either Indonesia or maybe Thailand. I wasn't sure, but I was glad I was vindicated. I was just curious if you knew.
No.
Of course, when I asked my wife when she watched it with me, she was like, "Oh yeah, it's the capital of Indonesia." I'm like,
you're like, thanks.
I was like, but would it be reasonable that maybe someone would think Thailand? She's like, no.
Oh no.
I'm like, I thought it was pretty reasonable.
No.
Funny.
Oh man. Yeah, no. So yeah, exactly what you said though. They had that nice little, and I guess it was kind of pretty much half the episode, right? Like
almost exactly, actually. Yeah. Yeah. So I like that. Let's see. So yeah, I like Pedro Pascal, of course. It was just fun to see him in something. I know that he's probably been in other things that I should have seen by now, but I haven't really. Like Mandalorian.
Yeah.
and that's it for at least 2 episodes of Mandalorian, because those are the only times we see her face.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So actually, what's really cool about this is him and Bella Ramsey, the girl that plays Ellie, both were in Game
mhm.
of Thrones. Um,
Oh, were they? Okay, I never got
yeah,
that far. I mean, I didn't get far at all,
they
but
weren't on the show at the same time, and their characters like never interacted. So this was the first time they actually met.
oh, I saw
Um,
your note actually. You
yeah,
wrote that down. Okay.
yeah.
What are they? What roles are they?
So he plays oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name and I literally just read it today. But he's in season 4 and he plays okay, I'm going to have to look it up because this is going to drive me nuts. And then she shows up in season
Oh, he
6.
plays Oberyn Martell.
That's
Okay.
the one. And then she's in I want to say season 6, maybe it was season 7, but she plays Lyanna Mormont. And she's a character from the north.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was her, I think it was her first acting gig actually to do Game of Thrones. And she was 13 at the time. And she was, in my opinion, probably a pretty big fan favorite. Like, I don't think I read a single bad thing about her character during Game of Thrones.
Cool.
Um,
Maybe someday I'll get over myself and actually watch all of those.
so, so anyway, so they didn't interact, obviously. Um, and yeah, they both kind of came into this show knowing that the other one had been on Game of Thrones, but not actually working with each other on Game of Thrones. So it's like a
Hmm.
little bit of a shared history for them that they finally got to meet now, though.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting to me. I'm looking at Bella Ramsey's name or the profile here on Google, and it says she's 19 years old. She pulls off a 14-year-old pretty well, though.
Mm-hmm. She does.
Not that I spend time like actually. I'm always such a bad gauge of like judge of ages for kids. Like I remember one time I was like, ugh, like all these preteens are so like I was in a rest area and they're just have like a bus full of them just like got out and they were just being obnoxious and annoying and then I was like, oh, all these like, you know, like preteens are so obnoxious and someone I was with who like taught that age group, they were like, no, this is high school.
Oh boy.
I was like, very well.
Oh, well, so to be fair,
What?
when she was in Game of Thrones, so she would have been 13, something like that when she was cast in Game of Thrones.
Okay.
And I always thought the character was I can't remember if they actually said how old she was or not in the show, the character. I always thought the character she was playing was like 10. So I think she just is one of those people that looks young for their age, um, and can pull it off, being
Okay.
cast younger.
I'd heard so the only other time I've heard of her was someone was telling me about a movie adaptation for a book called Catherine called Birdie,
Oh, okay.
which is a novel apparently. And it's set in, you know, like medieval times and she lived in a castle and stuff. Apparently she was fun in that one. She's like the main character.
Hmm.
But
No, I think she was a really strong in Game of Thrones, so I think she's going to do a really
hmm.
good job as Ellie as well.
Good. Well, yeah, I didn't like her as much as I liked the you called her Sarah. I
Yeah,
forget
Joel's
the
daughter.
yeah, Joel's daughter
Hmm.
Sarah. I liked Sarah better, I
Hmm.
think. But I'm willing to like Ellie more.
Hmm.
You know, I was like they should have just swapped roles. They should have had they should have had her die and had
uh,
but whatever. Yeah, so gosh, I really didn't think that Sarah was gonna die, actually. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't realize that it was gonna be with her in it. Like none of the previews had her in it.
and now you know why.
I was sad.
Yeah.
I was legitimately just like, oh.
Yeah.
But I can imagine like the level of guilt that he had because he like used her as a like not intentionally, but he used her as a shield. Like she
Right.
shielded him. Like she saved his life. Like and as he was trying to save her life.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just got to think like he's just blaming himself forever. For 20 years, he's just kicked the shit out of himself for it.
Yeah. Well, and like it has as you're saying right now, like it has a total effect on how he acts with Ellie, right? So um it's gonna
Yeah,
be
like he wanted to be like her, like dealing hardcore drugs.
it's gonna be it's gonna be interesting. Yeah. That
Wanted to be
that
like
line is
Sarah.
out of the game.
The hardcore drugs thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's out of the game. So like that they did a really good job like adding these little nods. What
Hmm.
also is really cool is so Marlene, she's like the head of the Fireflies, right?
Oh, I think they did like the after show thing that
Okay.
you don't have access to. But she said that she was the actress for the game too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So she played
Yeah.
Marlene in the game. And there are apparently going to be other
Oh.
actors in the show that are from the game as well. They're just going to be playing different characters. So they're not cast as who they were in the video game. They're cast as somebody else this time around. But she's the only one who carries over
Hmm.
from video game to show as the same character.
Okay. Well, yeah, she said in her little mini interview that she was really surprised that they like she heard about it. She's like, "Well, I have to apply, but I know that she's not going to hire me." And
Right.
then they did, and she's like, "This is so awesome." It so from your knowledge of the game, is she become like does she continue to be a character in the
Mm-hmm.
show or in the greater storyline, or
Yep.
is she okay?
Yep. Yep.
Cool. Like, does she play? I don't want like too many spoilers. Like, does she play semi-important role at least? Like, is she actually?
Yeah. She's semi important.
It's not like she just shows up and dies instantly or something.
Correct.
Cool. Okay, I liked her. She was fun.
Yeah. So I thought that was like a really cool thing that they got to do and bring her in.
Okay, so um, the fungus thing, man.
Mhm.
There's that really creepy moment. The other creepy moment. So yeah, it all happens in the
In the
old people's
house.
house.
Yeah.
Like the one where she's looking at the DVDs. Um,
Hmm.
and then the old woman's like, oh, like opens her mouth and does her the creepy weird
Yeah. In
thing.
the background.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is eerily like when you go back and look think about it now, you're like, oh, that is like so foreshadowy. Because in the game, it's actually a different neighbor that
Oh, okay.
attacks them. They do see an older, if I'm remembering correctly, I'm pretty sure they see another like older neighbor that attacks them, but it is um when they're driving on that street and you see the house burning and they're like, "Oh, that's Jimmy's place." I think they said it was Jimmy's place or whatever. That's the neighbor in the video game that ends up like busting into their house all infected and zombified. Um so they tweaked it a little bit in terms of that, but like when you see that scene, like I can visualize it in my brain now and just like it is a little bit foreshadowing.
Yeah. Yeah, she's yeah, it's creepy.
Yeah.
It's creepy for sure. So when Sarah is going through the house that she's discovering the guy's like help me, and then
Yeah.
she looks and like the
Caesar.
lady. So I thought that she was eating the other woman. I thought she was eating her hair, and that was what was coming out of her mouth. But
Right.
I think that was just fungus.
That
Actually, the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, those are just gross fungus things. And then I noticed it on the other one of the other infected, I think they're calling them,
yeah.
like one of the other zombie guys. When they was chasing, like he had them coming out of his mouth too, which is I just didn't notice it the first time through.
Yeah, it's the fungus and then that's how I'm assuming that's what they're going to use as the like contamination device. That sounds weird.
Hmm.
But like the factor that would be if they bite you, for example, then you would get infected with the fungus because obviously the fungus is right there.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. Like, so they show like someone got infected and they just got plastered to the wall by the fungus. Like it just grew out and
Mm-hmm.
killed them. Like it is gross, but uh, I liked. You never see zombies just dying on their own, even though they're like theoretically supposed to die on their own,
Right.
but due to not having enough sustenance to keep their body alive. Like in The Walking Dead that never happens, at least as far as I got through it. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're just maybe a little more shabby looking, but otherwise they never just keel over. I like that this one, like the affection actually eventually does terminate that their existence. Like that, I don't know, it's a decent nod. I liked that at least.
Right. Which, I mean, when you think about it, it makes sense. Like, if they're not actually dead.
Right.
So,
I
yeah.
mean, it's yeah, that's too bad. So gosh, it's so weird because I can't really ask you for predictions now because
I
you've
know.
played the game.
I know. Cause yeah, that's the thing. You can't ask me what I expect. Okay, so I will say, what do you think will happen from here?
So he's trying to go find his brother, who
Mm-hmm.
was apparently part of the greater like rebellion, the resistance, the Fireflies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think he'll eventually maybe he'll just like buy into it. I don't know, but it seems like Ellie is going to be part of the cure. They're like, oh, she got it, but she's got a great purpose. Like it seems like she's pretty obviously, at least right now, we're supposed to focus on her as more important than anyone because she has what it takes to like actually fight the fungus, fight the virus, whatever it is.
Right.
So they're gonna protect her. He doesn't realize how important she is, but eventually she'll become important to him because of story of the reasons.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to protect. She'll be Grogu in this episode or
Yeah.
this season.
She's Baby Yoda.
Yep.
Uh,
um I mean, in big strokes, I think that's I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Like it looked like in the previews he's going to meet up with his brother at some point. It looks like there's an old west scene, which is kind of fun, people on horses and all that. I don't know. I just want a good adventure story,
yeah.
really. Um, yeah. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know. I I like it when someone I like the stories where someone just takes all the uh pre-existing powers that be
Mm-hmm.
and just breaks them. All the institutions, like they're just gone. The government's thrown into chaos. There's some kind of outside pressure like zombies or whatever to just create chaos and make people panic about things,
Mm-hmm.
not non-rational, and we just get to see the madness.
Yeah. So it's just unraveling. Well, I guess it's unraveled, and now we're in the post era and how people are
Mm-hmm.
managing.
Well, I really like the idea of uh, anyone could be awesome when they're in comfort,
Mm-hmm.
when they're comfortable, when they are in their element, when like everyone can shine. Then they can show people sides of themselves that don't actually exist. They can pretend. And I like it when you get to stress a character enough that their real side comes out, and you get to see, are they actual cowards?
Mm-hmm.
Actually cowards. Are they actually brave? And we didn't realize it. Holy cow! Like, wow, that was awesome. Are they actually heroic? Are they tough? Do they just want to be comfortable? Like, what are they actually like? Distilling them down to their base components. And this is a really good setting for that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right because you don't have those comforts now.
Yeah, I thought they did a really good job actually of like they hinted at his like he's become extremely capable.
Mm-hmm.
Like it didn't seem like he was like not capable before, but like I love the way they kind of slowly introduced his legend.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh well, like there was that really subtle. He's talking to that cop guy. He's selling him the pills and stuff, and he's like, yeah, I guess that like killing people and there's a factory that makes like bullets and pills.
Right.
And he's like, well, I guess like it's tough to kill people, so people need to sleep or whatever. People need to take the pills for them.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I hear that, and the guy's like, oh, you heard that. Like he was clearly like, no, you've done it. We know that. I know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like his body count is pretty high, but we don't ever see it. And slowly, like, it's unraveled that, like that guy, the criminal guy who beat up Tess and stuff, like he's like terrified of him. And there's just a lot of really fun hints that what he's become that we didn't see. But
Right, because we've skipped all those years, right? So you're just kind of thrown into it.
yeah, yeah. I liked Tess too, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I liked how tough she was, and how she's just like, yeah, I'm all beat up, but we've got a job to do, and we're just gonna, like, don't feel sorry for me. Let's just
Right.
get things done.
It's just
Was she's a character in the game?
yes. Yes.
Hmm. Was she in the same initial role in the
Uh
game?
I'm pretty sure I oh, man, I'm trying to remember how much she's in it. I remember more. I'll put it this way. I remember more about Marlene in the game than I do about Tess.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fair. I liked how I liked. I don't know. She's just very pragmatic, very practical.
Yeah.
I, I thought she was cool. That they set a lot of things up. I was sad, like the kid who wandered into the town, and they're like, oh, Red killer or him or
Yeah.
whatever. And then they see the next scene we see Pedro Pascal, Joel
Mm-hmm.
throwing her in the fire.
Yeah, it is sad.
Well, I thought maybe there was like a cure, like they were like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
just give her some medicine and she'll be fixed. I was like, oh, cool, like they're fixing. Oh, never mind, she's in the fire, she's dead.
Yeah. No cure, sadly.
Not yet.
Mm-hmm. Um. So yeah, do you have anything else you want to touch on with this episode?
I mean, there's so much. There's so much going on here,
I know.
but um, let's see.
Um, I'm trying to think
What
of
about you?
the other thing that they changed that I'm remembering now is so you have um so when we jump forward and we're in this like quarantine zone the 20 years later and Joel's in that line and he's getting his I think they're like ration tickets or whatever. Um that is from Fedra, which is like their government overseeing things,
Mm-hmm.
which is what the
Yep.
Fireflies are fighting against. Um,
Right.
and in the game, he doesn't actually take jobs from them. He only gets what he needs through like smuggling, basically. Um,
Okay.
so you in the game, it feels like you are playing like this more of like this scoundrelly type of character.
Less legitimate. Yeah.
Yeah, which makes sense, like when you think about it, because you're in this environment that is surviving essentially, and you've got a quasi government now and a rebellion sort of, and then you have chaos in the in between, plus the infected still. So he just kind of does his own little smugglery, scoundrelly type thing.
Hmm. One thing I thought was cool about this show, and I thought maybe actually it was something you might agree with me on, was I liked that they didn't show just a bunch of gratuitous violence. Like there's certainly
Yeah.
violence, but like there was this thing where they're tracking down the battery, and they eventually open the door, and everyone, like all the gangbangers are dead. All of probably a bunch of Firefly people are dead,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a big firefight, and there were already characters that they'd introduced. Like they could have easily shown the firefight between the two.
Right, but they didn't.
They didn't. Like we saw the dead bodies, and I just liked that we didn't need it. We didn't need them to just be shooting each other's brains out. Like we could see a bunch of corpses, and oh, well, that happened. All right, like let's move the story along.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Especially because like to me, I think a lot of it, not even necessarily violence, but a lot of the implied violence is going to come from when you're trying to survive with like these infected people around you. But then you're also trying to survive with, society around you. So you don't necessarily need to have constant violence shoved down your throat because it's already there. Like you already know that that's happening.
Right. Right. Oh yeah, exactly. Like that doesn't need to be like I don't need to see a bunch of people killing each other. I've seen that everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everywhere in my life. Like that all entertainment has that. And there is a little bit of that, but it's all very story related, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say it feels like what they do show is directly related to what is happening in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and that they don't shy away from the violence, the necessary violence. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated that about it.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I guess we'll see how it keeps going. I after one episode though, I'm pretty hooked, actually. It's really good.
I honestly thought it was a very strong first episode.
Yeah, I was like, man, I can't believe they didn't release a second one. Damn it.
I know. I kind of thought they would, but they didn't. So we have 8 more because there's 9 total.
Yeah.
And
Okay, so
I have no idea if there's going to be a season 2 or not.
oh, like this might complete the entire video game, maybe,
Yeah.
or maybe it won't.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Depending on what they're doing here. So,
What a decision to make for them, because it's like if they think it's going to be well received, maybe they want to, like they've already developed all the, they've gotten the cast, they've developed
mm-hmm.
all the whatever the scenes.
Yeah.
Not that's not the right word, but like they developed all the stuff,
Right.
props, everything. Like they could probably make a second season a lot cheaper than
Mm-hmm.
the initial cost of the first season.
So apparently HBO is setting aside for this season, they set aside 10 to 15 million dollars per episode.
Oof.
So this is like 90 to what, 140 million dollars for the season.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, so a lot of the hyperbole about Rings of Power, like people are like, it costs $1 billion to make this.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. And like what a lot of people don't like, they're not actually, they're being disingenuous about it, because like first off, they had to develop all the sets and
Right.
all that stuff. Like they had developed the front costs are way more expensive, and then they also like the budget for the whole thing is like $1 billion. It's not just one season. It's like
For the
all
whole
of them.
thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, what I took from that, a lot of it though, was the initial costs for a show are way more expensive. The next show probably costs significantly less if they want to run it for season 2.
Right. Which makes sense.
I was impressed though. I thought it was good. I didn't know if I'd care about another zombie apocalypse kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's good. I like the fungus twist.
It's a little different.
The zombies were way creepier. Like instead of them just like kind of shifting their stances and shambling over toward you, they like stand up, like they sit up real quick, and you're like, oh wow, what?
Yeah.
And then they're just like desperate animalistic madness trying to get their target.
Yeah.
It's pretty scary and cool.
So you can imagine how jumpy I was playing the video game.
Was the video game pretty jumpy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like you were like startled.
Yeah. I also just like I scare easily, so yeah. But
Very well.
it's all good. So I'm excited though. We get another episode Sunday.
All right. Well, I'll wait till Sunday then, I guess.
You don't have another choice.
Yeah, realistically, I'll watch it a few days later anyway.
Yeah. But I think that's it for the first episode.
Yeah, we could call it good. Anything else you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I'm trying to like scan through the episode in my brain, and all I can visualize is this psycho neighbor lady chasing Sarah down.
Yeah, I wasn't. I don't know. I thought it was good. I mean, I hope it doesn't. I don't think they're going to make it into just zombies, but we'll see.
No, I don't think they will either. I think they are definitely going to be focusing on like the societal aspects of it.
Good.
Yeah, at least I hope so, because that's
Well,
the more interesting part to me.
oh, absolutely. I mean, The Walking Dead too. Like it was like the zombies. It was cool to watch them just butcher the zombies sometimes. That was kind of fun or whatever. But it was always the biggest threat was always other humans
Exactly, other humans trying to survive.
trying to mess with each other. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
messed up, man.
Yeah. Um. Cool. So I think that's it.
All right.
We can call it good until next week.
Yeah, call it something. See you guys. Have a good week.